exciting going through that. One time I went through there, I didn't have the cross pieces on the bridge. All I had was the 2 rails. I was by myself. I pulled the trailer through there with a 7-foot long piece of marble on. It took about 30 or 40 minutes to inch by inch go across those 2 rails that originally went from one side all the way over to the other side. It's a regular bridge. Now it's just a ramp. It's kind of lost its bridge charm, but it still works. Still works great. My studio, where I do the work where I bring the rocks in from the quarry. It's located in Double Adobe, Arizona. This is my workbench. I use a fan to exhaust the dust. But this is a recent sculpture I've been working on that's been a pretty big disappointment. But the nature of the stone I work causes a lot of disappointment in my work because the stone was all quarried 70, 80, 90 years ago. So it's sat outside. I can't really see what it looks like on the inside because it's been corroded by pollution. So it's kind of an adventure. When I start a piece, I don't know what's going to really happen. In this case, as you can see, it looks like that, but originally it looked more like this. And these, whatever you want to call them, came all the way out into here, down to there, and it had a balance and a symmetry, and this was eventually going to become ribbons that would flow it out, and this section came out to about here. It had a certain grace to it. Now, well, it's not much. It's not much compared to what it was. I might be able to save it, but probably I'll just put it in the scrap pile. Yeah. This is another piece I'm working on right now. This one might work out. I'm not sure. I'm always trying to stretch my material to the limit. I like to go to the very edge of disaster, wind up with a piece that really works, just short of falling apart. So what I'm doing with this is, you see this gray material here? This is a plastic material, epoxy material that I'm using to hold this together because these 2 sections here are separated. So what I plan to do is remove the rest of this material up here, swim this down some more, all the way around, bring these curves up like this, and then remove all this plastic material and carve this gap out so that these 2 sides don't touch. Sort of like a tuning fork almost. These fingers, see they slightly resemble fingers, will be, from here down, this will be gone. So that'll be what's holding it together. And if this works, and it may not, I may put, right now probably I have about, I don't know, 50 or 60 hours in it. And probably to finish it, another 50 hours to do all the handwork. And I may get it all finished and have it, fall apart. But when they work, it's really worth it. The idea of the images, where they come from, has a lot to do with the natural environment where I do most of the work. Living out there in that quarry in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by those mountains for months at a time, seems to have a great influence on me. Actually, it's really changed my life and my ideas about life. When you are able to isolate yourself from the normal environment, that is being around human beings, in social, cultural, family situations. When you suddenly don't have that input, you're alone, you have no one to talk to, and all you have is your work and the mountains. It changes everything about you. You have to change. Things don't happen like that. Things happen very slowly. The sun comes out. A normal day contains about 48 civilized hours in it. By the time noon comes around, you've already gone through a full day in your own mind. It's a very interesting experience. The images come out of those stones in a way, I think, because I don't really know. This is all a mystery. Artists really don't know what they're talking about when they're talking about the sources of their images and all that. They're just speculating. They're like saying, well, I know this, but that's not really true. It's guesswork. I mean, why are we doing this art? You know, it's obviously not a survival trait. Read. See the sculptures I do, they're not going to keep you alive. They certainly haven't kept me alive for a long time, except for, you know, the pleasure doing it. But that isolation is really what does it. And I think, it's my speculation, that all these natural materials have their own, in a sense, life within them. If you're working with wood or clay or stone, these materials are from the earth. And the earth itself seems to be alive. You get away from human beings and you live on the earth. You're there all the time. You start to realize that the Indians might have very well been right, that the earth is a living being. And I feel like, in a sense, I am making sculptures out of the skin of a creature. And in fact, marble comes from a life source in itself because it is a metamorphosized limestone, which limestone is a accumulation of the skeletons of living creatures, put down over a period of hundreds of millions of years. So there's a lot of mystery going on here. And all I can say is that, to me, it's an honor and a pleasure, and it makes my life worth living to be able to work these stones the way I do and to be able to be my own person that way. Well, there's a lot of fascination also with the methods used in marble sculpture. The classical idea is that the marble sculptor chisel and hammer and attacks the stone with this vengeance and beats on it. This is the way they did it. And the way the sculptors in the past, before the electric motor, had a lot of helpers. They had to. Marble's a resistant material. It doesn't really give you any help. And to get to that perfect flowing polished surface is a long process. In fact, over half of the process is just in sanding. And the sanding is almost all done by hand. There's very little machine work there. That's where you really need help. I do all my own sanding, but I wish I didn't. But my two main tools that allow me to do this work without having any help at all, I do it all myself, is the air chisel, which hooks up to an air hose, runs off an air compressor, which runs off, of course, an electric motor, and does that real fast. And this is probably worth about 5 guys working full-time at least, maybe more. It's hard to really determine that, but it definitely really makes you able to remove a lot of material. With this tool, and this one here, I can remove, by myself, on a roughing out, I can probably remove about 50 pounds of material a day. Now this is what we call a dry diamond blade. And it is a Makita. Makita makes this tool. It's a body grinder, electric, hooks up like that. This is a copper steel alloy blade with diamonds
welded on with a laser. Because of the way they're welded on, this blade doesn't get hot. So I'm able to cut lines approximately 1.25 inches deep at a time and use this to chisel out the material between the lines. And in so doing, I can get that to the rough shape pretty fast. So that's just about all there is to that. The other part is you go right back to the 15th century and you use rasps and hand chisels and sandpaper. And that's, like I say, probably 50% or more of the time involved in marble sculpture. That's something I really like a lot. And my idea about where my work should be is that it should be, each piece should be with a person like that, where they have to have it, and then for the rest of their lives, they always have that growing relationship with that piece. And they're, hopefully, over a period of time, their perception, their concept of the piece will change and grow, and it won't be a stagnant relationship. It won't be just a piece of art on the wall. It'll be something they have a relationship with. And I think that is what really creates the concept of great art, is when a human being has a real living relationship with a work of art. And ultimately, that's one of the greatest rewards of doing it.